Welcome to the Fearful Fright series, where we will be reading with our favorite green ghoul, Grimmer. Now sit back and enjoy this twisted tale. Today our story is called The Ad. The ad was strange, even by freelance standards. Birthday party. Children's entertainer needed. Good pay. One night only. No age listed. No number of kids. Just an address, an old house on the edge of Merrow's Bend, a town most people passed through without stopping. Elliot Crane almost ignored it. He was a magician, cheap tricks, card flourishes, balloons twisted into animals. Rent was due, though, and the pay listed was triple his normal rate. Cash. No questions. That should have been the first warning. The second was the voice on the phone. The man introduced himself as Harold Wickham. His voice was calm, polite, too careful, like someone reciting lines they'd practiced alone. "It's my son's birthday," Harold said. "He's very excited. Loves surprises." "How old?" Elliot asked. There was a pause, long enough for Elliot to check the call hadn't dropped. 7, Harold finally said. Elliot didn't know why his stomach tightened. The house sat alone at the end of a gravel road, trees hemming it in like an audience leaning forward. No neighboring houses. No streetlights. Elliot arrived early, as requested. Harold Wickham opened the door almost immediately, like he'd been waiting behind it. He was tall, thin, wearing a neatly pressed sweater despite the heat. His smile never quite reached his eyes. "Thank you for coming," Harold said. "You're the first." The first. Inside, the house smelled faintly of disinfectant and something older, dust, maybe, or rot hidden behind walls. Decorations hung in the living room, streamers, balloons, a banner that read "Happy Birthday." No name. No toys. No signs of a child. "Kids haven't arrived yet?" Elliot asked, setting his case down. "Oh, they will," Harold said, closing the door behind him. The lock clicked loudly. "Please, make yourself comfortable." Elliot noticed then, there were no pictures on the walls. No family photos. Just empty frames. An hour passed. No children. No parents. Harold hovered, asking odd questions. How do you keep their attention? What did they do when they're scared? Did they cry loudly? Elliot laughed awkwardly. Depends on the kid." Harold nodded, absorbing that like important information. When Elliot asked where the birthday boy was, Harold gestured vaguely toward the hallway. "He's resting. Big day." Elliot stood once, intending to leave, when Harold's hand closed around his wrist. Not tight. Not threatening. Just possessive. "Please," Harold said softly. "They'll be here soon." Elliot sat back down. He told himself it was the money. The doorbell rang just after sunset. 2 more entertainers arrived together. Marcy Bell, a bubbly face painter with a rolling case of supplies, and Jonah Pike, a clown whose makeup couldn't quite hide how tired his eyes looked. Harold's mood brightened instantly. Yes, perfect." Marcy whispered to Elliot while Harold fetched drinks. "This place is weird, right?" Elliot nodded. "Have you seen any kids?" Jonah shook his head. "I thought I was early." They didn't get a chance to say more. The power went out. The lights snapped off all at once, plunging the house into darkness so complete it felt heavy. Harold laughed. "Sometimes the generator acts up," he said from somewhere in the dark. "Don't move." That's when Elliot heard it. A sound from the hallway. Not footsteps. Dragging. They found the room by accident. A door Jonah opened while searching for a bathroom. Inside were boxes, stacked neatly. Each labeled with dates. Inside some were costumes, clown wigs, magician hats, party favors. Inside others. Marcy screamed. Elliot slammed the door shut just as the lights flickered back on. Harold stood at the end of the hall. His smile was gone. "You weren't supposed to see that," he said quietly. That's when they ran. The house seemed different once they were running through it. Hallways stretched longer than they should have. Doors that hadn't been there before appeared, then vanished. Harold's voice echoed through vents and walls. "You don't understand," he said calmly. "They always leave. The children. They grow up. They forget." A door slammed. Jonah was grabbed. Not dragged screaming, but silenced too fast. The sound that followed was final. Marcy sobbed, covering her mouth to stay quiet. Elliot pulled her into a closet, heart hammering so hard he thought Harold could hear it. Hours passed. Or minutes. Time didn't work right in that house. They found Jonah later, or what was left behind. His makeup kit. His shoes, placed neatly side by side. Elliot realized something horrifying then. Harold wasn't improvising. He had done this many times. The escape was chaos. A broken window. Glass slicing Elliot's arm. Marcy slipping in the mud outside, nearly being dragged back by Harold's grip before Elliot smashed a rock into his face. Harold didn't scream. He just looked disappointed. They ran until their lungs burned. Until the house disappeared behind the trees. They never looked back. Police searched the property the next morning. The house was gone. Not burned. Not demolished. Gone. The road ended in a thicket of trees that showed no signs of ever being disturbed. No missing persons were connected. No Harold Wickham found. Life moved on. Mostly. Years later, Elliot was scrolling through his phone when an ad stopped him cold. Birthday party. Children's entertainer needed. Good pay. One night only. Different town. Same wording. Same mistake. As Elliot stared, a small detail caught his eye. A photo attached this time. A banner. "Happy birthday, Elliot." And behind it, just barely visible, a tall man in a sweater, smiling patiently. Like someone waiting for their guests to return.